Bill Maher had a new rules segment, the ending monologue of his show every week, about socialism, and he got almost every point exactly wrong. So let's take a look, and I'm going to stop and fact check him every time he fucks up.
Finally, new rules since this year's presidential race features both an unabashed socialist and a bona fide capitalist pig. Someone needs to explain to the free market solves everything crowd that when it comes to socialism, you're soaking in it.
No, one sentence in and he's already wrong. They are not soaking in socialism. They are dependent on the welfare state that capitalism uses in order to survive. Capitalism keeps people poor, the welfare state regulates capitalism, and it depends on it in order to keep it alive because of its abuses, and capitalism makes people depend on the state in order to survive. That is not socialism. Those are regulations on capitalism that, in actuality, help capitalism thrive and last longer because people are less likely to recognize its abuses if the welfare state under capitalism continues to exist. Continue. They should be clapping for me, but of course the crowd loves what Maher said because they're liberals and they were misinformed by every available avenue for education, including the educational system and the media, which perpetuates that capitalism is a certainty and anything else is not possible. Continue.
Marco Rubio says if you want to live in a socialist country, why not move to a socialist country? Oh, you mean like Florida, where everyone's on Social Security?
No, we mean like no country that currently exists because or has ever existed as a nation state, because in no nation have the workers completely controlled the means of production and controlled the economy in a democratic fashion. In no country as a whole has that happened on a large scale. In municipalities it has, but in no country has socialism ever materialized.
Yes, so many Americans hate the word socialism, but love the concept. Medicare, unemployment, disability, farm subsidies.
None of which are examples of socialism.
Forget the transgender debate. What America really needs is a separate bathroom for welfare queens.
And again, so-called welfare queens, whether individuals, rich or poor, or corporations, would not be examples of socialism. Just want to emphasize that. Thank you again for your applause. I appreciate it.
Now, back in February, when democracy was still serious and Trump was still a joke, 66% of young people told pollsters that corporate America, quote, embodies everything that is wrong with America. And that, more than anything else, is what this election is about.
Even when citing a cogent opinion, he still manages to get it kind of wrong. The election is about making the proletariat feel important and commenting on the abuses of corporate America while not doing anything to actually abolish it. That would be up to the populace itself.
And what side you're on in that debate is all about your generation. Older Americans are more religious, and America's real religion is capitalism.
That he's right about. It's a good analogy, but you'd think as a staunch atheist who sees religion as a huge societal problem and wants to convince people not to believe in religion, that he would also want to convince people not to be capitalist because he would see a religion as not helpful to society. But he's not doing that. He still wants to preserve capitalism for some reason.
And like any religion, it needs a devil. And that devil has always been socialism. In 1961, Ronald Reagan said if we passed Medicare, we'd wind up telling our children what it was like in America when men were free. Thanks, Nostra dumbass.
And bravo to you, Bill Maher, for not acknowledging that socialism is a regulation inside a capitalist economy and not an example of socialism. See, I could be a sarcastic asshole too. Except I'm right. I'm really starting to appreciate the applause breaks. This is nice.
Oh, we hate the red team. Republicans always think if you allow a little socialism, it'll spread out of control, but actually,
Sorry, I'm gonna stop you right there in mid sentence. No one would be allowing socialism. The government cannot concede socialism. That's not possible. The workers would be the ones that have to take control of the economy and run it democratically themselves. You cannot have the government from the top down allow workers to take control because the government would be the ones controlling the workers, and the workers would not be controlling themselves because the government would not be made up of the working class. Sorry, continue.
actually, it's the opposite. It's capitalism that we've let spread out of control.
Who's we? How is capitalism out of control? Seems to me like it's functioning just as it's supposed to, and it's supposed to be elastic and last throughout depressions and recessions and poverty booms and boom and bust cycles. It is not out of control. It's performing as it's supposed to, and the workers have no control over the way capitalism functions because they do not control the economic system. If they control the economic system, it would be a socialist system.
It's
I feel so validated. You guys are so kind to me. Thanks. I'm sure you're not validating all his completely wrong assumptions.
eaten our democracy.
We've never had a democracy, but assuming we did, why are you making the case to preserve it if it's eaten our democracy? Why do you want to continue it?
It's eating our middle class.
Regulations under a capitalist economy created the middle class. Socialism did not. Under socialism, there would only be the working class. There would be no division between the working class and the owner class. The middle class is not even a real thing. As for there to be a middle class, there would have to be a lower class. But there's only two classes: the owner class, who takes profits and does not produce, and the working class, who produces but does not take profits. That's the difference. In order to keep the middle class, capitalism would have to exist. So capitalism would not eat our middle class, socialism would, because the working class would be the only class left under a socialist economy. Continue.
It's eaten our healthcare system, our prison system, our news media. It's even eaten our food system so thoroughly that a lot of our food is no longer something that should be eaten.
You're correct about that, but it raises the question again. Why are you trying to preserve capitalism if those things are true?
Because capitalism is a shark, or a tidal wave, or pond scum, or whatever metaphor you like to describe an unthinking force that devours everything in its path. And now the latest thing it is scarfing down is our national parks. The government just announced they would be selling naming rights at the parks like we do at sports stadiums, because the parks are $11 billion in debt. And since capitalism solves everything, cue corporate America, who's always asking one simple question: how can we help?
True, so it's really strange that you recognize these problems and know they're a result of capitalism but want to keep the structures of corporate America in place.
Nothing in it for us. We just want to lend a hand, like when Bill Cosby offers to help you with your modeling career.
The proverbial and sarcastic lending of the hand is not an abnormality in capitalism. It is a natural consequence of it, which weirdly makes your rape metaphor appropriate, because just as the patriarchy and mechanisms of power and privilege allowed Bill Cosby, a powerful man, to get away with his crimes for decades before anyone really started to pay attention. Capitalism allows workers to be taken advantage of and made to be in poor health and stressed out and oppressed without anyone really believing them and paying attention and recognizing their own oppression. So, in a way, you're correct, just not in the way you think.
So get ready to see the bison roaming at Yellowstone with the Nike swoosh shaved into their ass. And you'll no longer be having anonymous gay sex in Yosemite's rest area number 12. You'll be getting blown in the Quicken Loans men's room. The Grand Tetons will be brought to you by Hooters and the Washington Monument by Cialis. And the Statue of Liberty by Massengill. Give me you're tired, you're hungry, you're feeling not so fresh.
If that were to happen, the oppressions under capitalism would instantly be more recognizable. So there's an argument to be made that people would be more likely to openly revolt against the system if the oppressions were obvious. Lenin had an argument known as heightening the contradictions, which argued that conditions in society need to get worse in order for people to radically change social order. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but it's an argument to be made. So, since Maher wants to preserve capitalism instead of overthrowing it, he's undermining his point. Again.
You know, when you're handing over national parks to corporations, when the price of a life-saving drug goes up 5,000% overnight, when our elections are being bought by the evil puppet from the Saw movies, it's time to realize we're better off if there are a few things that free market profiteers can't get their cloven hooves on.
It is possible to have a socialist model which still includes market allocation of goods. So the free market doesn't exclusively have to do with capitalism, but the government certainly has nothing to do with socialism. So to say the government should pay for something does not make it socialist, it makes it regulated institutions of capitalism.
On the same day I read about the $11 billion the parks need, there was also this headline: $40 billion Air Force tanker program delayed. Because that's the problem with the Grand Canyon. It doesn't make Boeing rich. It just sits there. Stupid canyon.
Again, he's recognizing the problems under the system, but is not applying a solution because he wants to preserve the system. These problems are happening in whether things are regulated by the government or not. The economic system is the problem. And here is the last part of the monologue where he talks about how old people and young people feel about socialism and comes to the ending of the thesis, but gets it exactly wrong because he is describing social democracy, the welfare state, government regulations on capitalism as socialism. So here's the end.
I'm not arguing against the free market, just not for everything. It's funny, older people think socialism is capitalism's enemy, and younger people think it's capitalism's replacement, but they're both wrong. What socialism is capitalism's lap band, something to prevent it from eating everything.
I will play into the stereotype as a young person. Socialism is capitalism's replacement. You cannot have both socialism and capitalism. If you regulate capitalism, that's capitalism. That is the economy. Private ownership of the means of production. And socialism would be worker ownership of the means of production. The government is completely separate in the conversation. Whether there is big government, small government, or no government, and there could still be a socialist economy in which workers own the means of production. So, once again, Bill Maher is equating social democracy, the welfare state, with socialism, and thinking capitalism is a given and must, and socialism must protect capitalism, but that's impossible. They are completely diametrically opposed to one another, and until capitalism is replaced, socialism will not exist. Workers need to own the means of production in all aspects of society, including the media. HBO is a private corporation, and they control Mars contract, as well as the content that they decide to put on the air. Mar does not have ownership of HBO. The content creators, the actual people on camera, and the people who actually produce the television show do not have ownership of HBO. But with segments like this, Mar would not make it in an audience that was class conscious and that had control over what was on in their media and was able to hold the media accountable. This is a channel that attempts to hold the media accountable from a socialist perspective. This is a socialist channel, but I will emphasize that there is no such thing as socialist media because anything I or anyone else creates inevitably channels back to the owner class. With YouTube, the owners of YouTube are Google. The content producers of YouTube, the YouTubers, do not own YouTube, and Mar and his crew and everyone else on HBO who actually have a hand in creating the content do not own it. This is a channel which advocates for worker control over the means of production. In this case, production can be taken literally. Media production. Which is why I say, I'm Jeremy Einbinder for Democratize the Media, fighting for a media where the creators are in control. Democratize the media. It's our turn soon. Solidarity, everyone.